Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Khan, and today we're diving into another chilling case. On September 22, 2023, the remains of Suzanne Morphew were discovered 3 years after she mysteriously vanished on May 10, 2020. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation found her remains while searching an area in Moffett, Saguache County. During a different investigation, breathing new life into Suzanne's cold case. Suzanne's personal life was filled with turmoil, and her husband's inconsistent stories initially made him the prime suspect in what police believed to be a murder. However, fresh evidence has raised doubts about the 2-year-long investigation. More than 70 investigators dedicated 1,000 hours to Suzanne's case, issuing 135 search warrants and interviewing over 400 people. Eventually, they felt confident enough to charge Barry Morphew with first-degree murder. Despite the charges being dropped due to insufficient evidence and mismanagement, many still believed Barry was guilty. But with Suzanne's remains found 50 miles outside the search area and DNA evidence linking her death to a suspected serial killer, new questions have emerged. Was Barry more cunning than authorities realized? Or did someone else from Suzanne's life cause her death? Suzanne Morphew was born on April 11, 1971, to Jean and Adrian Alexandria. She grew up with 2 brothers, David and Andrew. Suzanne was known for being an amazing, intellectual, and thoughtful friend. In 1988, while still in high school, Suzanne met her future husband, Barry Morphew. They dated for 6 years before marrying. Barry was a standout baseball player and signed with the Toronto Blue Jays, while Suzanne pursued an education degree at Purdue University. Unfortunately, Barry's career ended prematurely due to a serious injury, leading him to start a career in horticulture. Suzanne taught for 4 years while Barry started a landscaping company, which thrived over time. The couple had 2 children, Mallory and Macy, and led a seemingly perfect life in Indiana until Suzanne was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. She bravely fought and beat cancer twice. In 2018, the Morphew family moved to Maysville, Colorado, for a fresh start and to be closer to Mallory, who was attending Western State University. They settled on a beautiful 7-acre property where Barry could hunt. He continued working as a contractor and became a volunteer fireman, while Suzanne retired from teaching to focus on the church and new hobbies like mountain biking. From the outside, the Morphews seemed like the perfect family, but they had their share of problems, which surfaced following the events of May 10, 2020. That day, Mother's Day, began unusually for the Morphew household. Barry and the girls were away, leaving Suzanne alone. Barry claimed to have a landscaping appointment in Broomfield, 3 hours away by car, while the girls were on a camping trip. They planned to return by evening to celebrate Mother's Day with Suzanne. However, the celebration never happened. That evening, Mallory and Macy texted their mother to wish her a happy Mother's Day but received no reply. This was odd, as Suzanne was usually active on social media. Expecting to see photos from her best friend's daughter's wedding, they knew she had to be on her phone. After several hours with no response, Mallory and Macy contacted their neighbor, Martin Ritter, and his wife to check on Suzanne. Mrs. Ritter went to the Morphew house around 4 to 4:30 p.m. but found it empty. She called Barry, who told her to check for Suzanne's mountain bike. If it wasn't there, he instructed her to call the police, which she did. Police arrived at the Morphew residence, and Barry and his daughters rushed back home, desperate to find Suzanne. The first solid clue was discovered a few hours into the search. Suzanne's mountain bike was found off a steep ravine not far from their home. While it initially suggested a crash, the bike and surrounding vegetation showed no signs of struggle. There were no skid marks, no damage to the bike, no blood, and the vegetation was undisturbed. Deputies concluded the bike was placed there deliberately. When Barry was informed, he had a bizarre reaction, suggesting a mountain lion attack, the first of many outlandish theories he would offer. Investigators found Barry Morphew's behavior extremely suspicious during the search for his missing wife, Suzanne. Many people found his actions and explanations to be strange, to say the least. In a secretly recorded conversation with YouTuber Tyson Draper, Barry elaborated on his mountain lion story, but his lack of involvement in the search parties organized by Suzanne's brother, Andrew, raised eyebrows. Andrew doubted Barry's claim that Suzanne went for a bike ride on Mother's Day, suggesting she might have been taken the day before. Suspicion shifted even more toward Barry when Suzanne's helmet was discovered a mile from their home, precisely in the direction Barry's truck telemetry indicated he had traveled that morning. Investigators might have dismissed this as a coincidence if it wasn't in the opposite direction of the Broomfield construction site Barry claimed he was heading to that day. In his initial interview, Barry said he woke up at 4:30 a.m. and left straight for Broomfield. However, data from his Ford F-350 showed he first drove a mile west before heading to the construction site. When confronted with this data, Barry offered a convenient explanation. He said he was scouting for elk around 4:30 a.m. to track them down later. Barry claimed he tranquilized elk and removed their antlers to sell. However, officers pointed out that he couldn't have been looking for elk at 4:30 a.m. if he was supposed to be waking up then. Barry then changed his story, saying he woke up on his own without setting an alarm. Barry also claimed that May 9, 2020, was one of the best days he and Suzanne had in a long time. He said he worked with a coworker in Salida that morning, returned home early, went on a hike with Suzanne, grilled steaks, and was intimate with her before going to bed together. But Barry's reliability as a witness was questionable. Investigators soon discovered discrepancies when they examined Barry's phone and vehicle telemetry data. While Barry and Suzanne did spend the afternoon and evening together, the details didn't match his story. At 2:42 to 2:44 p.m., Barry's phone data showed erratic movements around the property. When asked about this, Barry claimed he was likely hunting chipmunks with tranquilizers. At 2:47 p.m., Barry switched his phone to airplane mode, keeping it off until 10:17 p.m. Furthermore, the investigators only found one dirty dish from their supposed steak dinner instead of two. Later that night, more inconsistencies emerged. At 9:30 p.m., about an hour after Barry claimed he went to bed with Suzanne, his truck moved 96 feet backward from the driveway. Investigators speculated this might have been when he loaded her body onto the truck, if he was guilty. Between 3:25 and 3:48 a.m., Barry's truck door opened and closed over 80 times, hinting at activities he wasn't disclosing to the police. Interviews with Barry's coworkers revealed he wasn't supposed to be in Broomfield on May 10th. The project he claimed to be inspecting wasn't scheduled to start until a week later. Barry said he visited the Holiday Inn, the job site, a local store for granola and water, and stopped at McDonald's to clean his windshield. However, surveillance footage from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation showed Barry disposing of 5 trash bags near McDonald's and the Holiday Inn. When confronted with this footage, Barry gave an unusual explanation. He said he was cleaning his car to avoid proper disposal fees. This explanation fell apart when officers inspected his car. A coworker also reported a strong smell of bleach and chlorine in Barry's hotel room the day after Suzanne's disappearance. Additionally, Barry changed his clothes multiple times throughout the day, raising more red flags. Despite Barry's odd behavior, investigators initially found no clear motive for him to harm Suzanne. However, a deeper look into their personal lives revealed cracks in their marriage. Text messages recovered from Suzanne's phone painted a different picture than the happy marriage Barry described. Suzanne was deeply unhappy and expressed her dissatisfaction with her husband. Suzanne Morphew's Notes app contained a list of grievances, painting a pattern of physical abuse and fear. She expressed anxiety about being alone with her husband, his drinking habits, and his repeated attempts to seize her phone. Suzanne even speculated about Barry's infidelity. On May 20th, when the police searched the Morphew house, they found a pen Suzanne had bought to catch Barry in the act of cheating. Ironically, it recorded her own affair with a man named Jeff, a high school acquaintance. The affair had been ongoing for about a year and a half, starting around 2018. While Jeff was an obvious suspect, he was quickly cleared of involvement. Investigators believed Barry found out about the affair. A note Suzanne wrote 2 days before her disappearance corroborated this theory, where Barry accused her of having a boyfriend. The spy pen was instrumental but not the only crucial piece of evidence. In their search of the Morphew house, investigators found the cap of a tranquilizer dart in the dryer, a spent bullet casing in the bedroom, a large crack in a doorframe, and remnants of Suzanne's journal in the fireplace. Combined with telematic data, these findings suggested Barry might have planned and executed the murder of his wife on the afternoon of May 9, 2020. Suzanne's phone data supported this theory. After texting her boyfriend 53 times and sending him a selfie at around 2:10 p.m., she never used her phone again. The public learned Barry was a suspect 2 weeks later when police excavated a construction site in Salida, one of Barry's job sites. In response, Barry released a video declaring his innocence. He wasn't arrested until May 5, 2021, nearly a year after the investigation began. The evidence against Barry was mostly circumstantial, but his changing stories, repeated lies, and clear motive bolstered the prosecution's confidence. Barry was charged with first-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, possession of a dangerous weapon, and attempting to influence a public servant. He also faced a charge for filing a fraudulent election ballot in Suzanne's name, claiming he thought Trump could use the extra vote. Barry pled guilty to the charge and paid a $600 fine. In August 2021, a preliminary hearing determined if Barry's case would go to trial. Over 4 days, the prosecution presented their evidence, postulating that Barry killed Suzanne on May 9, 2020, dismembered her body in a hotel room, disposed of the tools, and buried her in an unmarked grave. Barry's defense, however, challenged the prosecution's narrative, highlighting that cadaver dogs found no signs of human remains in Barry's car or the hotel room. They also suggested that the dart bullet cover might have been planted and pointed out inconsistencies in the prosecution's evidence. The defense team presented several critical arguments and pieces of evidence to counter the prosecution's case against Barry Morphew. They pointed out inconsistencies in evidence, such as one photograph showing the cap of a tranquilizer dart in the dryer and another showing it wasn't there. The defense also argued that Barry could not have used his dart gun in the alleged murder, as it was broken at the time. However, the defense's most compelling argument was the discovery of partial DNA in Suzanne's Range Rover and on her bike helmet, none of which matched Barry. This DNA matched profiles from 3 unsolved sexual assault cases in Chicago and Arizona, introducing reasonable doubt about Barry's guilt. This critical information had not been disclosed earlier because the CBI investigator who collected the evidence went on military leave before following up on the lead. Moreover, the defense was not informed of the foreign DNA matches until the hearing, indicating that the prosecution had withheld exculpatory evidence. The defense argued that with another potential suspect with a criminal record, the prosecution lacked sufficient evidence to convict Barry of his wife's murder. Despite the defense's request for a swift ruling, the judge delayed his decision, citing the extensive resources invested in the case. On September 7th, the judge decided the case would proceed and set Barry's bail at $500,000. Barry was released from jail on September 20, 2021, just 9 days before the trial was set to begin. On the eve of the trial, the prosecution filed a motion to dismiss all charges against Barry without prejudice, meaning they could restart the case if new information emerged. With no body, reasonable doubt about Barry's involvement, and prosecutorial misconduct, the case against Barry was weak. The prosecution had also missed several deadlines, leading to the exclusion of 14 key witnesses from the trial. The dismissal of charges shocked the public, and Barry was seen exiting the courthouse with a smile, accompanied by his daughters. On September 22, 2023, investigators discovered Suzanne's remains in several shallow graves in Moffett, Colorado, over 50 miles from the initial search area. The discovery raised questions about Barry's potential involvement, but police were certain his truck was not in Moffett on May 9th and 10th. Some speculated that Barry might have had help disposing of Suzanne's body or could have made the trip to Moffett later. Despite Barry's apparent exoneration, the police and district attorney's office have not closed the case. The district attorney of the 12th Judicial District stated that the investigation is ongoing and could not comment further but offered condolences to Suzanne's family. Barry's attorney, Iris Eiton, suggested that Suzanne might have been a victim of a serial killer, given her remains were found in a boneyard. She argued that Barry was wrongfully targeted by law enforcement and hopes they will eventually acknowledge their mistake. Meanwhile, Barry has filed a $15 million lawsuit against the prosecutors, sheriff stations, and several investigators, claiming he was wrongfully charged in his wife's disappearance and death. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more shocking and compelling stories ahead.